Dear students, now we are going to do a very significant chapter today, that is eco-casteism. When we are studying caste in Dalit studies, this concept we need to understand, and this is how it's a complete summary note which I'll try to give you. There are many points which are very significant. Please pay attention. Pause the video, note down these points, and then come back again and listen. The theoretical framework, the eco-casteist lens. In this analysis, the environment is reconceptualized from a scenic backdrop to a contested geography. Eco-casteism examines how Brahmanical hegemony maps purity and pollution onto physical space, dictating access to the resource like water and land. Using Sharan Kumar Limbale's framework, these poems prioritize anubhav, that is lived experience, over traditional rasa, that is aesthetic pleasure. So this point is very significant. Please note it down. Please listen it again carefully. In this, how this, ecology and ecology, water is one of the main resource. How this water is being associated with the notion of purity and pollution, and how this water become the main weapon to control untouchables. Here, one word is being used, that is anubhav, lived experience. So when untouchable is writing about oneself, it is a anubhav, which is the lived experience. But when we talk about how this lived experience are different from rasa, this rasa is a kind of aesthetic pleasure which is seen from the perspective of the non-untouchable, other than untouchable. So I read it again. In this analysis, the environment is reconceptualized from scenic backdrop to a contested geography. So the geography, when we talk about, it's not like a beautiful landscape is there, where all the greenery and beautiful flowers are there, a cool breeze is blowing. It's not like that. It's a it's an area which is being occupied by certain community, and there are certain communities, certain people who are being displaced from it, debarred from this area. So it is a contested geography. Eco-casteism examines how Brahmanical hegemony maps purity and pollution onto a physical space. Okay, that is a land area, the water resources are there, natural resources, dictating access to resource like water and land. So even if today in India we see the water and the land distribution is which is very unequal when it comes to the untouchables and the people from the marginalized community. Using Sharan Kumar Limbale's framework, these poems prioritize anubhav, that is lived experience, over traditional rasa, that is aesthetic pleasure. Now, stanza-wise and thematic analysis. Water as a social archive. Challapalli Swaruprani as water rejects the chemical definition of in favor of water as historical witness. The poem charts social map where the village well functions as a site of spiritual apartheid. It highlights the ontological difference between metal pot and thatched pot, viewing water as boundary marked of exclusion rather than a life-giving source. So in the caste system, it was a regulation that untouchables were not allowed to use metal pot. Any kind of metal pot was not allowed to untouchables. Untouchable has to use thatched pot, that is a soil pot, and that is easily broken, and it is not very strong, it is not very durable compared to the metal pot. So Swarup Rani is trying to say that it rejects the chemical definition in favor of water as a historical witness. The poem charts a social map where village well function as a site of spiritual apartheid. So the apartheid is spiritual as well. I mean, when certain area or specific area are being denied to the access to the untouchables. It highlights the ontological difference between a metal pot and thatched pot, viewing water as a boundary mark of exclusion rather than a life-giving source. Basudev Sunani's prayer. Vasudev Sunani's prayer extend this to the sacred environment. Sunani critiques inverse theology, where the stone idol carved by Dalit hands is deemed pure, while the living creator is bad from the temple environment as polluting. So mostly, the temple stone idols are being carved by untouchable community. But the moment it is placed in a temple area, then it becomes the hands of the Dalit, hands of the untouchable become impure. And that's how the prayer, extend this to the sacred environment. Sunani critics inverse theology, where the stone idol carved by Dalit hand is deemed pure, while the living creator is barren from the temple. So, the stone become the pure, but the person who is carving this stone, or the person who is shaping this stone into the a shape of an idol, is become polluting, and that is how this is known as inverse theology. Now the next is laboring body as landscape. Nirav Patel, the song of our shirt, offers a materialist ecology of the textile industry. The shirt is not a commodity but an extension of the Dalit body. The sweat of the labor acts as invisible dye. It exposes purity pollution paradox, where elite wear the beauty produced by those they consider untouchable. And here, how the shirt which is being created, the shirt which is being woven by an untouchable hands, uh, and how this, the invisible dye. I mean, the sweat and the blood of that the body, the Dalit body, become the invisible dye, and it exposes purity pollution paradox, where the elite wear the beauty produced by those they consider untouchable. Balbir Madhopuri, my old man, conceptualized the body as an archive. The father's physical deformities, cracked heels and calloused hands, are treated as topographies of the lifetime of the manual toil. The human literally merge with the soil through a uncompensated labor. So when a father is working in the land, when a father is working in the field, their hands become, their hands become the it is deformed, and cracked heels and calloused hands are there, treated as topography. So when hands and foot of an untouchable is seen, it shows the uh, it's a kind of, it becomes the uh, topography of the manual labor, body as an archive. The body itself become the evidence for the manual toil, or the lifetime manual toil which is being done by untouchables. And that is how my old man conceptualized the body as an archive. The father's physical deformities, cracked heels and calloused hands, are treated as topographies of lifetime of manual toil. The human literally merged with the soil through uncompensated labor. Anti-post pastoralism as spatial exclusion. This Now we are coming to the next concept, that is anti-pastoralism and spatial exclusion. Lal Singh Dil, the outcast, deconstruct the romantic village myth. Dil focuses on the Shamlat, a common land, as a site of environmental segregation. Here, nature enforces a curfew. The smell of evening signals the Dalit forced retreat to the outskirts, asserting that while the landlord owns the trees, the Dalit only owns the dust. And that is how this environmental segregation, where the place are being denied, certain area of the geographic land is being denied. So that's the same thing. That long time before, Ambedkar himself has told that Indian villages are uh, the gutter, and they are the place for the segregation, where the land is being segregated, and environmental apartheid is there, environmental segregation is there. Namdev Dasal's Mandakini Patil employs linguistic terrorism to describe urban ecology of the slum. By focusing on filth and sewage, Dasal argues that the purity of the upper caste site is subsidized by the pollution of the red light district. Next, we come to biopolitics and institutional space. M.R. Renukumar, the question paper moves the environment into the classroom. This poem addresses slow violence, the gradual erasure of ancestral land, the student's silence in the face of environmental question highlight how the state and educational system erase Dalit geography. So in the question paper, nothing is asked which is associated with the majority of the population. No question related to their labor, identity, history, their contribution to the country, and that nothing is being asked. And that is how the history. It's a kind of the question paper become the uh, a machine or an instrument to erase the history of Dalit geography. Dalit as Dalit as identity, Dalit as existence. Mohan Das Nimishray, We Will Fight, a manifesto of reclaiming public space. The fight for the main road is a struggle against environmental exclusion, asserting that access to infrastructure is a fundamental human right. So you come and read it again how this We Will Fight as a manifesto for reclaiming public space. The fight for a main road is a struggle against environmental exclusion, asserting that access to infrastructure is a fundamental human right. Rajni Tilak beat of 1,000 feet subverts the association of the lowest, the feed ground with pollution. Tilak uses a rhythmic movement to transform the polluted ground into a site of political agency and Dalit feminism. Now we come to the critical part of this critical synthesis table, and we are dealing with the concept, then application in the text, and critical significance. So when we talk about eco-casteism, Swarup Rani's water uh, uh, is, uh, is implying it. The application part we are able to see, and how this is critical significance is nature as a witness to caste massacre. Environmental apartheid is seen in Lal Singh Dil's Outcast, and its critical significance is the village as a mapped site of exclusion. Occupational precarity is seen as Nirav Patel's shirt, and how does this reflect the physical toll of environmental labor. Subaltern memory, Balbir Madhopuri's Old Man, and the body as a topographical map of history. Limbale's redefined aestheticism, and how Limbale redefined the aestheticism. To conclude these works, life fulfill Limbale's criteria for Dalit literature. Satyam is truth, Shivam is equality, and Sundaram is beauty. Truth, what is the unvarnished reality of the outcast? So when we talk, the moment we talk about Satyam, what is the reality of the outcast? That we need to study. Shivam means instead of God, it is equality. The environment justice sort out the text. So we need to talk about the equality of the uh, environment. Okay, it's a land and resources of the environment, which is equal for all the humans. And Sundaram, that is beauty, found in the anti authenticity of the struggle, not in the flowery prose. So, comparative analysis, if we see environmental racism versus eco-casteism, to elevate your academic argument, it is useful to bridge the gap between Indian subaltern studies and global environment justice. While environmental racism, as defined by Bullard, and eco-casteism, as defined by Mukul Sharma, emerge from the different geography, they share a structural DNA, the weaponization of the environment to marginalize expandable bodies. And then we come to the shared structure framework, that is how these features are there: spatial segregation, purity versus poison, labor exploitation, the silent victim, and how these are being given as a environmental racism, and then how it is associated with the eco-casteism. So spatial segregation, redefining redlining black communities are pushed into the fancy line zone near toxic plants, and how this is associated with the caste, that environmental apartheid, Dalits are pushed downward, downwind, and downstream of the village. Purity versus poison is focused on the chemical toxicity, that is lead, smoke, waste, and with the caste focuses on the ritual pollution, that is impure touch or shadow. Labor exploitation, hazardous industrial labor with minimal protection, that is associated with the uh, racism, and with the caste forced ecological labor, manual scavenging, tanning, and carcasses disposal. The silent victim in the racism is slow violence, that is Rob Nixon, the gradual health decay of marginalized group, and in the caste spiritual apartheid, the denial of water and land as a form of social death. Now, dive and key thematic parallels, a fence line and boundary. In the West environment, racism is often viewed through the lens of dumping in Dixies, the intentional place of waste site in black neighborhood. In literature, mirroring this, Lal Singh Dil and Namdev Dasal describe the Dalit colony as the dumping ground of the village or city. The environment is not a shared asset but a wall. Dasal's Golpitha is an Indian equivalent of toxic zip code, where the environment itself, sewage decay, is a used to dehumanize the inhabitants. Water from lead pipes to village well to Flint. A water crisis is contemporary example of environment racism, where a basic resource was weaponized against the poor minority population. Eco-casteism parallel in Swarup Rani's water. The deprivation is not just failure of infrastructure but a deliberate social act. While Flint deal with the chemical lead, Rani's subject deal with the social lead. The historical weight of massacre, that is Kamdhenu, that turned to water source into a site of trauma. The body as a toxic site. Robert Bullard argued that the black body is often viewed as a naturally more resistant to pollution, justifying hazardous work. Dalit aesthetic parallel. This mirror as Brahmanical view of Dalit body as inherently polluted, which ironically justify facing them to handle the community's filth. Nirav Patel's Song of Our Shirt capture this materialistic ecology, and worker's body is a filter that cleans the world while becoming ragged and stained in the process. The key terms are intersectionality of space. This describes how one social identity, that is race and caste, dictates their physical location in the environment and their subsequent health survival outcome. Summary of the table is environmental racism. A race determines who breathe clean air. Eco-casteism, caste determine whose pot can touch the water. And synthesis is both systems treat the environment as a tool of biopowder, controlling who lives, who dies, and in what condition. So special exclusion is below is a structure, conclusion, synthesis, section that bring together eco-casteism and environmental racism, the counter archive framework. Conclusion is environment as a counter archive. To intersect the intersection of eco-casteism and environmental racism reveal that the landscape is never neutral. It is a socially mapped geography, while Western framework like Rob Nixon, slow violence provide a vocabulary for the delaying physical destruction of marginalized bodies. Dalit aesthetic provides anubhav, that is lived experience, fills with these theories with human agency. And key syntheses are the myth of the pastoral. Both theories shatter the romanticizing view of nature. For the subaltern, the green field is not a site of peace but a site of unpaid labor and segregated boundaries. Biopolitics and the body. In both systems, the marginalized body is treated as a natural resource to be exploited and seen in Patel's cotton pickers or industrial workers in Bullard's studies. The body itself becomes a topographical map of a social trauma. So resistance through reclamation, whether it is fight for clean water or in Flint and the beat of thousand feet in Rajni Tilak's poetry, the environment is primary stage of revolution, reclaiming the main road of the village well in an act of reclaiming humanity. And the final table we can say that is theoretical lens, primary focus, and literary manifestation. Environmental racism in the primary focus is institutionalized toxicity and redlining, and in the literary manifestation, a slum ecology in the Sal's Goldbeat, eco-casteism, ritual impurity and spiritual apartheid, and the witnessing water in Swarup Rani's poetry. subaltern ecology, survival and labor-based relationship with land, the cracked heel of father in the Madhopuri's work. And the strategic phase could be to weaponize the common, describe how shared resources like water are used to exclude, spatial manifestation of hegemony, that is explaining how caste, race map into the physical layout of a town. The body as a site of ecological archive, notice how physical toil is recorded of environment in history. So we stop here. You read this again, listen this again, and this is a very wonderful video in which we are talking about the eco-casteism, and we are comparing it with the race. So all the writers and this all comparison and everything, all concept and theory we have given. Look at it, read it, listen it again,